Sylvia and KellyAnne complete the fastest Rivals season arc ever. Plus, Adam and maybe some others are very sick. Some fears and insecurities are faced and overcome. Devin thinks he's masterminding while Frank actually masterminds. And the inevitable blow-up between Aneesa and Ashley begins its countdown. It's the Challenge All-Stars 5 Rivals Episode 3 recap coming up right now. What up, my fellow Challenge lovers? Welcome to The Challenge Historian, where we dive deep into all things MTV's The Challenge, past, present, or future. If it's happening in the Challenge universe, we are here to document it. I am your host and dedicated Challenge Historian, Jacob Hollaball. Thank you so very much for being here with me whenever you may be listening. But for me, on this Wednesday night, All-Stars 5, Episode 3 in the books. We are here to discuss it all, break it all down. 3 for 3, officially, top line review, 3 for 3. This season rules. I love it. Every episode's been good. This episode was good. Maybe a hair below the last two, but like the smallest hair. We're still talking really, really good stuff with a lot to discuss. We will dive in with our typical agenda. As always, the only programming reminder before we do begin is there will be an episode of this podcast sometime, I would say, in the next 3 to 5 days at absolute most. Probably on Friday, maybe on Sunday. I can't imagine it'd be later than Sunday. And that episode will be the instant cast reactions to the Challenge 41. The cast has left, and we have, over the last 48 hours, 72 hours really this week, we have been getting the names added to the semi-official list by all of the gamer vevs and spoiler accounts of the world. That is not all completely locked in yet. I don't believe they've actually, we usually get the this is who's there, this is who's there, filming has begun. This is the list. These are the alternates. This is who, enters the game. And at that moment is when I will do my instant cast reaction. So I'm assuming we have those names locked in and we know who is officially filming season 41 starting in the next day or two here. So if we have pretty good confirmation by Friday, I will likely record a podcast then and release it sometime Friday or maybe Saturday morning. If it takes a little extra time, we will try. I'm going to do it by Sunday for sure. I would like to do it over the weekend, and I would think we would have all the information we need. They don't have nearly as long quarantines these days or anything beforehand. So I think we'll have what we need, and you will get an instant reaction to the cast of season 41, which, here's your 10-second preview. Started off looking awful, picked up the pace a lot, and the more recent announcements have been very promising. So we'll see where things end up, and we'll do that recap sometime this weekend. But for tonight and for the rest of the foreseeable future, you've got All-Stars 5 recaps coming at you. Same agenda as always. So let's dive in. Episode 3 recap coming up right now. Let's kick things off at the house, and we will go chronological order here. Only a couple things to talk about from the opening house segment, but they're all very important things. Everything's important when we talk about it here. It may only be 10 seconds long, which is about how long I think this one was and about how long I think last week's was. But the fact that they're still at least giving us 10 seconds or 15 seconds or maybe 20 seconds. I'm probably cutting it short. Maybe 20 seconds worth of an opening montage of people drinking, people in the pool, people hanging out, seemingly having a good time, just setting the vibe. Even if twice in a row now, it has been, here's your montage of everyone having fun, and first words you hear are someone talking game and strategy. That's fine. You're setting a good vibe. It's a really good tone for us viewers. It puts us in the mindset of this is fun. This is fun. This is going to be a good time. They're having a good time. You're going to have a good time. Yes, we're immediately going to go into the game and everything else, but I like it. I think even if it's all from the same party and they're using specific camera angles, over the weeks to maybe in week 6, we're looking at the same party, but they're just, kind of cropping out whoever is no longer there. It's fine. I think it's a good, kind of not palate cleanser because we haven't the palate doesn't need cleanse. It's the opening seconds of the thing, but a good table setter. There we go. That's the food related metaphor we were looking for, to just get us in the right mind, get us in the right vibes, get us in the right tone, all of that. So love that. Then Frank, also someone and something that I love. I love Frank so much. If you listen to the preview, if you listen to, honestly, I mentioned him in a lot of seasons and recaps and things that have nothing to do with him or any seasons he's been on. So anyone, unless this is your first time ever listening to this podcast, you're probably aware that I think very highly of Frank as a cast member on the challenge. And I was thrilled for him to come back, and it is paying off. And it is, I'm being proven right over and over and over through 3 episodes. Not that I think there was anyone out there that was like, there were definitely some people out there that like didn't like Frank, but that's sometimes part of being a good cast member. I don't think there was that many people out there who were like, this guy's not going to add anything to the show. Like, I don't know if there was any of those people. I might have been higher than most, but I think most people would have, know what they have with Frank, and we're expecting good things. And I was expecting absolute greatness, and so far we're getting absolute greatness. He is just, he does not care about anyone in the house. He cares about trying to move forward in the game and being entertaining in the process. And the scene with him and Kellyanne needing someone to talk to after her and Sylvia's big blow up the night before. And, she looks around and doesn't necessarily have that obvious person, that obvious connection that she would go to or could go to in the house, especially now with Janae being gone. I know her and Janae could have honestly been rivals given how their last seasons together have gone, but that went so weird because they were such good friends that then had those falling outs on All Stars, and then it was still kind of simmering there on Battle of the Eras. But without anyone obvious, she turns to Frank, and Frank is happy to be anyone and everyone's friend in this house as long as it's just his benefit. He doesn't actually care. He isn't concerned with whatever your concerns are. He is concerned with ingratiating himself and being able to be a pal, be an alliance member down the line maybe, and be able to, as he says, throw you in and laugh about it when he's at the end and you're not, because he threw you in. And it's great. And he is amazing throughout this episode, starting with this scene. But this is the really good, juicy type of stuff of like, when you can mix the in the house, here's the scene, and then here's the confessional of the person being like, this is all a game. This is all a mirage. This is what's really going on here. This is what I'm really doing. And sometimes that can happen, and you could be like, you're just trying to make this like sound cooler or sound smarter than you are. These ones so far, I'm like, that's actually what's going through his head as he's talking to Kellyanne, and I'm believing all of this, and this is all good, and it's all great, and it's wonderful television. And then speaking of Frank, we can then turn to his partner. The last thing to discuss from the opening house segment, Sam and Aneesa have a nice moment discussing, Sam's insecurities about how she was going to be able to perform 12 years later, especially like she is in a very unique position of one and done champion who was, honestly as good of a team member as her team had. And that's saying something. And that team was absolutely stacked. All 4 of them were great, but Sam, more than carried her weight, given that the couple of times she really had to step up, the couple of eliminations where it was always her thrown in, not Ashley thrown in, she dominated. She absolutely smoked everyone she went against, and including, ones like the very famous, but we always kind of forget that it was a 2-person hall brawl. It wasn't just Zach and CJ, it was Sam and Jasmine, and that wasn't much of a fight, and it was a coin flip between, is this going to be a fight or is this going to go back on Zach's? And obviously we get that iconic hall brawl because of how that coin flip fell. But having had that experience and then been a one and done, and then to come back 12 years later, and yes, clearly be in a different physical shape than she may have been 12 years ago, on which I actually, side tangent, I really appreciate the different people when they're coming back saying the years since it's been, because I always get confused in my head. Like, all right, season 23, Battle of the Seasons. How many years ago was that? Like 17 seasons, maybe 2 a year, not quite. Like, what? So I really appreciate when they always say, like, when she keeps saying 12 years ago, I'm like, nice, that puts it into context. We've had 17 flagship seasons in 12 years. Okay, that all makes sense. But so I like that, there's a self-awareness there. Definitely, we see in the daily challenge, she has a confessional or even two. I think definitely the one of like, the real hurdle here was just like, we see this big pit and you got to run up this big mud wall. And I wasn't totally sure I was going to be able to do it. And I did. And I felt good about it, as she should. And so there's a lot of awareness going on there. It's a nice moment, her and Aneesa discussing being viewed a certain way in the house when they might bring much more to the table than that view is giving to them. And was a great moment between them. Was a great sounding board for Sam to have there, having Aneesa be the one to talk to about that. And overall, I think it is a benefit for her and Frank to know that she's not, under any delusions of what her performance level is going to be, but whatever insecurities there are of still reaching the maximum, and the maximum is probably good enough for them, that we're overcoming some of those and we're breaking down barriers and we're kind of, putting some of those to bed and gaining a little bit of confidence. I think that's definitely a win and a big benefit for their team. While one of them's over scheming away, one of them is getting a little confidence, getting a little bit more comfortable being back in this environment. Then we go to the daily challenge, and it's a good one. It's solid. It feels very Survivor-y, which is not a bad thing. Obviously, two shows that are essentially both 50 seasons in of doing a challenge or multiple challenges, games, whatever, every episode for upwards of 50 seasons. There's going to be a lot of overlap. There's lots of them that kind of feel like they could be, in the other game, ripped from the other game, etc. This one did I don't know why. This one of all of them just really stuck out, and that's what I put in my notes. It felt Survivor-y, but I liked it. The only thing I didn't like about it, and I have gotten these comments have come in on the YouTube side of things. I've actually gotten a message, DM about this, and I have also just seen some general discussion about this out on the X streets and other social, mostly on X though, about the last place not going into elimination. And I, so far this season, have been good with that. I guess just last recap was good with that, because my mindset has been, hey, I was so excited to just have everyone be voting in person. TJ's there, out loud, the whole thing. I was just so happy to have a classical style, everyone in the house voting with TJ there. And, I kind of thought the scales would tip in favor of there's more drama, there's more interest and intrigue with the whole house voting, TJ being there, the whole thing, than there would be in last place going in, than what we're losing with last place not going in, and what that takes away from the daily challenges. Now, I think it's only 3 episodes in. It's only 2 dailies and 2 eliminations in. 3 dailies, but 2 that were for elimination purposes. And so we will see where this goes. But this episode was the second in a row now, and we're 2 for 2, not good, where last place not going straight into elimination is really affecting things in a major way and tipping the scales, when the other side of it, the potential gain we could get from it, is not being realized because it's just an overwhelming vote for Adam and Steve, who now by the end of this episode have won again. And I'm kind of getting nervous of like, so next episode is just going to be the whole house voting for Adam and Steve, and we're never going to get anything interesting from as long as they keep winning, we're never going to get anything interesting from a vote, and therefore we're only going to get the negative of last place not going in, hurting the daily challenges, because it's definitely hurting it here. I think last week I think I mentioned it in the recap, but definitely saw even more of it after the fact, of different cast members in lives or just in tweets or whatever discussing, hey, like a lot of us were quitting because it was scary and we didn't want to do it, but also like we knew we weren't going to win. Like we knew Amber and Fessy were going to win, and we didn't want to do it. Why do it in that stage? Because getting last didn't matter. And I think this week was very similar. Everyone was clearly trying and doing it. It wasn't like anyone just like sat out or like didn't do anything. But I think everyone went into this like, okay, so TJ, you've explained it. Good, great. Yeah, I think Devin and Leroy, or Amber and Fessy. I think those two are, that's more than likely who's going to win. There could be an upset, sure. This puzzle could be really hard at the end of this, but I think it's going to be one of those two teams that win. And I think everyone knew that, and everyone acted accordingly as far as the effort level, save for maybe Adam and Steve, but we'll talk about them and the sickness and everything else later on. So no last place is definitely hurting right now. It's definitely hurting the competition. I do think it has some underlying pros to it, small marginal gains, things like what I've talked about a couple episodes in a row now of like, well, the daily challenge is over really fast because once one team's done, they just blow the whistle and everything's done and it's a quick and we're back to the house and there's more stuff at the house that can happen then. But I'm not admitting defeat. We're only in episode 3 of what I think is 10 to 12 to 14, who knows how many episodes. But I will say that so far the scale is tipping towards we're being hurt by no last place going to elimination, and we're not gaining anything on the potential drama that could be a house vote. Back to the house then we go for what ends up being that very boring vote. But while we won't really talk about that, we will talk about Adam being very, very sick. Very sick. Those sweat stains, I mean, my goodness. I've had a fever. I've had bed sheets that look like that because of a fever and a really bad sick. And I was really, really, really sick. If that's what your bed sheets look like, you've got a crazy fever. And he clearly, they give us the exact right amount of access to the bathroom that they should give us. As far as like, we want you to know exactly how much this man is throwing up and things are coming out of both ends of the body, as they say multiple times, but we don't need to take you in there and let you hear any of it too much, which I actually, for a show that loves a throw up montage, I was kind of impressed that they didn't like, Adam, or Steve, can you maybe throw a mic a little closer to him there in the bathroom? I was actually impressed that they restrained themselves, knowing how much they do love that vomiting, but he's very sick. He does allude once in the episode to, it's going, I think he says at the confessional, like it's going around the house. It may, come to you next, which I was glad he alluded to because Corey confirmed on X during the episode, like Adam was not the only one sick. Corey had a big fever. A couple other people had a fever. So this was not somehow Adam got sick and no one else in the house caught it at all. It seems like by the end of the episode, Steve is like doing what you would expect with a bunkmate who has the fever Adam has, of like, okay, so give it 12 to 24 hours at worst. And then Steve is going to be right where Adam is, just following him, tailing him through this process. A lot of the people in the house seemingly were going through this. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it doesn't really affect anyone else in the game and anything. Whoever is feeling that way is, got through it, and is his incredible performance throughout the episode is Adam, and then eventually Steve too gives. Hopefully that they're feeling good by the next daily challenge that rolls around another day or two later, and hopefully everyone else in the house is, and this rolls through and doesn't really impact the game. It's another thing that is kind of a surprise that it doesn't show up, kind of like the rain last week. Like, it actually is a little bit surprising that it's happened before. This is certainly not the first time, but that it doesn't happen more often, or even almost every season, that like one person catches something and suddenly the whole house is sick and suddenly your show's kind of in the toilet for, literally and figuratively, for a couple of episodes. So unbelievable effort and performance by Adam to work through this and keep the composure and perform and do the daily, and then obviously do the elim, which we'll talk about in a minute. If I'm them, I wouldn't have given so much effort in the daily, but good on them for doing so. My only question with them is they have that conversation together. Adam's like, Steve, go around and tell people if anyone's willing to go in, they can steal our star, one, for sure, and we will legitimately, we'll throw ourselves in for them in the future. If they ever feel in danger, we will throw ourselves in for them. Did they ever actually go make that offer to anyone? It's a question I have for them, and I would love to know, because that it's a decent offer, especially in a game where you do need to win and you do need to go get a star. So this isn't like a full sacrificial moment. There is a reason a team might be interested in an offer of such, from two guys that I do think would honor that too. I do think Adam and Steve would be trustworthy in this moment of I think they actually would. If someone would have stepped up, went in, won an elimination, and then 2 episodes from now been like, we're the target, Adam and Steve volunteered, like try get yourselves thrown in or whatever. Now, no one would have to honor that. It is still a vote. No one would have to honor that volunteering. But anyways, I'm interested to know if they made that offer or if it was just Adam's pitch that fell on deaf ears at the voting ceremony. I guess we did get that kind of entertainment out of the voting ceremony, but not a lot of drama. They're voted in pretty much unanimously. The only other thing to discuss is we do have more or less confirmation of alliances here. And the one new deal that is struck is worth being brought up because it might actually have more legs to it than is given credit to. Devin and Leroy. Leroy says flat out he is working with Dario and Ashley and Nani and Turbo. We assume Nani and Turbo, Leroy and Nani, of course, super duper tight. And then the Dario Ashley one, I was not that's the new info that we've gotten there. And it means that then Devin and Leroy, who strike the deal in their mind, strike the deal with Frank and Sam. In Frank's mind, sure, we didn't get thrown in. But maybe there actually is a deal that could be lived up to for one reason or another. And the reason on Frank and Sam's end could be, well, you are working with Ashley, who I would assume Frank and Sam are working with. I know Frank says he's working with no one in the house or doesn't care about anyone else in the house, but I would assume they're working with Ashley. That would make a lot of sense for both teams. And if so, then you've got 4 teams right there that have good connections between them. And there's only 6 other teams left by the end of the episode, which are all kind of in pairs now. You got Shane and Devin and Ashley and Aneesa. Shane and Ashley, super connected. Veronica, Katie, Adam, and Steve definitely feel very connected. Melissa, Nicole, Big T, and Corey because of Melissa and Big T. Nicole is connected to Adam, and so maybe those last 4, Veronica, Katie, Adam, Steve, Melissa, Nicole, Big T, Corey, could be 4 teams, and maybe Ashley and Shane and what's left of the Lavender Ladies kind of end up in the middle of a 4-on-4 matchup here. I don't know, but I do like that this is breaking out of like, there's a bunch of duos. There's a bunch of people that are really strongly connected to one person on one other team. And otherwise, it's kind of a mismatch. And I think, again, maybe it'll continue to be boring vote after boring vote because maybe Adam and Steve will literally win every elimination this season. That would be incredible. What if Adam and Steve won like 8 straight eliminations for the season? It was just like, we had 8 elims this season, and Adam and Steve won every single one of them. We've never seen anything like it ever in the history of the show or anywhere close to it. Maybe that happens and we get a boring vote every single time. But if Adam and Steve could just get healthy and then win a daily or, win over someone in the house to not throw them in or not want to vote for them, we could have some really interesting votes. We could have some really interesting alliances and backstabbing and deal making and everything else. To the elimination we go then, and KellyAnne and Sylvia get picked by Devin and Leroy. A bit of a surprise, certainly. And this was the second episode in a row that I was like, whoa, we're going to the elimination like really quickly here. And then I kind of look at the time left in the episode, which I hate. I kind of hate myself for doing when I do it. But in my head, I was like, they showed us the next week on was Ashley and Aneesa. And this feels like it's going to follow the same script as last week. Is we're going to watch the elimination, then we're going to get a quick but meaningful scene back at the house of a rivals pair starting to go at it, which obviously is eventually what happens. We'll talk about both. But the elimination first. So we went there. We didn't have really any clue what Devin and Leroy were thinking other than they want to make deals. They want to, make everyone sweat or whatever Devin says. And I do think this is a good pick ultimately for them. We don't get much of the reasoning other than the deal they made with Frank and Sam or think they made with Frank and Sam. But overall, if I'm them, KellyAnne, Sylvia, it's one, you're breaking up the Lavender Ladies if they lose, which is good. There's 3 teams with 3 of the OG Lavender Ladies on it. So breaking up that possibly biggest alliance in the house is a good thing. And KellyAnne and Sylvia are just flat out a good team. And so now you got good team versus good team, threat versus threat. And one of those threats goes home. You maybe break up one of the bigger alliances in the house. And so I get it. And they don't really have a connection to those 2. Although I know there isn't a connection, but they do. Sylvia feels like, there's kind of these like 3 groups of time periods that these people have played the games in. And, it's not quite all 4 eras represented here, but the middle grouping, it feels like Sylvia and Devin and Leroy could come to some sort of agreement. But anyways, I think it was a good choice on their part to let's get a threat in versus a threat. Is maybe I think they were really leaning on the but we want that threat to go home. Hopefully, the one we vote for to go home. And so that's why they're not thinking Amber and Fessy, because if I'm them, I'm throwing in Amber and Fessy versus Steve and Adam and get one of the other 2 absolute favorites in this game out of here. But I digress. The game they play, very interesting, unique, and cool design. I like it pretty much. I like it across the board. And it turns out to be a fantastic performance, really, by all 4 of them, both of them. Adam and Steve seemingly do the puzzle very, very quickly, and Sylvia and KellyAnne are not that far behind. And it just becomes then it's who does, if neither of you is going to mess up on the holding, who did the puzzle faster? Adam and Steve did. And it's very impressive they don't mess up the holding. That seems incredibly difficult and only going to get more. I'm guessing in their minds when they made this, they were thinking, if someone messes up, if someone drops or lets it touch at any point, we're likely going to get to the end of the rope / chain that is coming down. And it's just going to be lifting up the, it's not going to keep moving. Cause they, even in the 5 minutes and as quickly as they did this, they were nearing the end of the spool. But it's a great performance by both. I didn't think they were going to be able to keep it up on first go. I thought they were both going to drop at least once and have to really think through. I thought part of this was going to be, no, you need to take your time and think through, organize the rope and chain first and then pick it up in a very specific way. And then, have one, the whole thing. I thought it was going to be a little more than just once you pick it up, you can figure it out on the fly and just frantically keep everything up and, keep it moving. But Adam and Steve, again, incredible performance under the conditions. Adam looks like he clearly wants. He looks like he needs to just pass out and fall over at that point and have a medic come over and stick an IV in his arm and put him on a tarp and take him to just be on bed rest, getting fluids and medication and stuff for days at a time. He is so out of it by the end of it, but he is holding strong when performing and doing it. So unbelievable performance from him. Steve is looking much worse. He's looking like he's going down the same path. He's following Adam down that path by the end of this and by the confessionals after and everything else. And so again, hopeful that they feel better quickly and everyone else in the house that has this illness that we're not seeing or privy to are feeling better quickly. And this doesn't impact the season any further. Steve, by the way, shout out, 5 elimination wins now. 5 elimination wins on All Stars, the most ever in All Stars history, and is really, for a guy who was one and done way back when, is really building 3 seasons of All Stars now, 5 elimination wins, a final, the whole thing. He's crushing it, and I love the energy he brings to the house. I love him as a cast member and character on this show. I'm just a big fan of Steve and big fan of Adam and this team. And again, as boring as the votes would be, if it was just a resounding Steve and Adam vote every time, it would be pretty interesting if it was it's every episode Adam and Steve get voted in, and every episode they win, and then they get voted in, and then they win, and they went 5 or 6 straight. It'd be interesting, but I'm hoping for a little more drama than that with the voting. They deserve a week off. Kelly and Sylvia, they deserve more time on this season. They were perfect for this season. They did the full Rivals arc in 3 episodes. They came in and were like, you guys, we have reason to be rivals, but we're actually the biggest rivals here. We hate each other. We're yelling at each other. We're the most dysfunctional of all the pairs. And then boom, actually we're good. We're friendly. We're working well together. We're doing okay. And now we're out. But we're out and we're friends. And we actually think that we're the same person by the end of this. That is the full Rivals arc. They did it in 3 episodes. The season is going to miss having them in the house, certainly. I love both of them as cast members. I think they're both great competitors. They were definitely, I don't even think the underdog or dark horse team, because I think everyone was on the same page I was of that team's good. Just because neither of them won before, that team's good. And they're one of the 3 or 4 teams that's in the grouping of one of those teams probably is going to win. And so, yeah, wish we could have them longer, but someone's got to lose every one of these episodes. Good for them for turning around, becoming friends at the end, realizing how similar they are, putting all the beef behind them, seemingly, at least in the moment. Great cast members, as TJ said. Hope to see them again in the future. And then we're back at the house, and we get the drama we expected all episode because, again, it was in the trailer, and then it was in next week on last week. Ashley and Aneesa. What I did not expect this to start the way that it did. We see in the trailer in the next week on Ashley doing her one moment of really, yelling and clapping and raising the voice of, I never make fun of you for anything personal. And she lists off for whatever, for anything personal. We've seen that moment twice if you've watched the trailer in the next week on. And I would have expected, maybe unfairly to Ashley, but my expectation was Ashley got fed up with Aneesa not being great, was talking some shit, and Aneesa confronted her about talking shit, and then Ashley gave that moment. I did not think that moment was going to be caused by Aneesa teasing Ashley about being a redneck. Teasing her about having an accent and being a Southern gal and whatever. Didn't see that coming. Not a great moment for Aneesa. Certainly not a great moment. Incredible comeback from Ashley of just, I went to a school with 3,000 people. I had these cars. We lived in a 3-story house. I'm not a redneck. Don't use that term. It's not fair, whatever. It was fantastic response in the moment there from Ashley. And, but Aneesa is much not great, not cool. Does realize and apologize right away there in the moment of my bad, and then goes to her later and apologizes and is, even when they're later waving across the yard to each other of Ashley, I still see you over there, is, apologetic and everything. And so good on her for realizing right away, maybe I shouldn't, maybe that wasn't cool of me. It wasn't. Ashley, there is something to be said of that comeback of, I don't make fun of you for anything personal, is almost kind of one of those backhanded ways of I could make fun of you for personal things, but I haven't. It's not, there's a little of that. So she's not completely unscathed in this back and forth. But this is a mess. This is drama, and it is entertaining. I'm enjoying it as a fan of the show. This is in the gray area we always talk about of okay, we're touching on some real shit here, and it's not the best look for either person, but we're not going anywhere where I'm not enjoying it. I'm having a good time watching the mess, interested in how it will unfold, how things will play out here. So we're very much living in that world, and that's a good thing, I guess. Maybe you think differently. But another thing I couldn't predict, well, before that, Ashley so badly wants, she makes some more or less just defends herself and makes some comments of come on, are you really, I'm going to have the reason to get mad at you right now. I'm being so restrained right now. You have no idea how restrained I'm being. She so badly wants to tear into her partner. It is actually showing a lot of restraint as far as what we've seen from her in the past and how we imagine. And she tells us she is feeling in these moments of I am a 2-time champion. I come here to compete. I think I should be winning these shows. I think I could win, blah, 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 blah. She is showing real restraint. And I think those restraints, whatever restraint she has put on herself, she is going to be quickly taking off if anything like this continues, and if anything like their performances and the challenges continue. Now to the other part I couldn't have predicted, though. No way. You could have given me odds of every cast member in the house and been hey, that Ashley Aneesa blow up that they've teased in the next weeks on in the trailers. Okay, so that goes down, and it's a big thing. Aneesa calls her a redneck, whatever. it goes down, blow up between them. They are not happy with each other. They each go their separate ways to talk to someone, to cool off, as you do in a challenge house. Here's every cast member in the house and their odds. Who would you like to bet on that Ashley goes to have a one-on-one conversation to help try to calm her down or make sense of the situation or just kind of rationalize the whole thing? I would not have predicted my guy Fessy, okay? It would not have been Fessy. I was when that scene opens and she's outside and it's just her and Fessy chatting, and her, trying to vent it all out, get all the frustration out. Aneesa secretly kind of across the yard waving like, I can hear and see everything that you're saying. Did not see that being Fessy in that moment, being the sounding board. I thought for sure that, it'd be Shane. Obviously, I thought the lavender Sylvia had just left by this point. So I think that would have definitely been Sylvia if Sylvia was still there. But Shane, or even, I don't know, Frank or Corey or Ashley or Devin, or honestly, even Nani. I would have bet on Nani, who Nani and Ashley don't like each other. They were on opposite sides of the rivalries. I forget what Nani and Jenna and Kayla were called in comparison to the Lavender Ladies, but I remember that was the thing. Those two sides versus each other. I would not have picked Fessy over basically anyone in the house, but there he was, and there she was, and he was at least like being sensible of like, hey, like, she's still your partner. Like, clearly, as a guy who's been frustrated with his partners before, and we'll be very fair here, wrongly so, multiple times before, is frustrated with his partners. He sees someone who is rightfully, in this moment, rightfully so, frustrated with their partner, and says the appropriate things of like, I'm going to mostly let you talk, and when you want me to say something, I'll just be like, that sucks, but you kind of gotta get that's your partner, that's all you got, so you make the best of it. So that was interesting, and I'm sure we're gonna get a lot more next week of this, and maybe more than just next week. I hope it doesn't become a trend also that we get this ending fight and then that pair makes up and goes home the next week. Let's hope that we don't go 2 for 2 with that. It already happened once. The show suffers because of it. Let's not let the show suffer again. Ashley and Aneesa, let the drama continue for more than just next week. All right, to the awards. And if you can't tell by the length of these recaps that are pushing the boundaries of the lengths of the episodes themselves, clearly I really like this season. Really having a good time. I hope you are too. And I appreciate you for listening through these long recaps that we've been doing, 3 for 3 on the length here. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get to the best quote of the week. Frank, nominee number 1. I do not care about anyone in the house. I can't even talk. I do not care about anybody in this house except for myself, my partner. That's it. The rest of this is gameplay. I don't care. I want to manipulate these relationships that feel so close to me. Daddy would never throw me in. I can't wait to throw you in. Can't wait to go to the end and laugh because I threw you in, end quote. Just loved his manipulation all episode long, and how much he revels in explaining his manipulation to us via confessional. Leroy, quote, I didn't get the full thing. The beginning, is like, if I would have won some money back in the Las Vegas real world Leroy days. But the end of it was strip club, gambling, drinking, strip club, gambling, drinking. It would have all been gone. So that quote was actually fantastic. And then Dario quote, Adam, I don't know how things were done in 88, 86, but in 2024, if your competition is down, we're taking advantage. Here's some tissues. Get on down to elimination. End quote. Good stuff from Dario. We need more of Dario and Ashley. I'm sure we will get more of them. There's not a lot of screen time in these 60-minute episodes, so hopefully we get more of them, though, in the future. For now, Leroy's quote, strip club, gambling, drinking, strip club, gambling, drinking, is the winner of the quote of the week. Best moment of the week. We've got the opening party montage. It may have been short, but again, it's just a great table setter for the episode. Do it every episode. Do it every single time. And make sure they have time to have fun and have pool parties and the like every single time. Frank manipulating KellyAnne as she thinks she's found a new best friend and is completely consoled in that moment is fascinating television. Sylvia and KellyAnne burying the hatchet. I did really enjoy all the pre-elimination, the post-elimination, all of it from them coming together and realizing like we might as well be really good friends because we're very similar in a lot of ways and have a lot of reasons to like each other. And then, of course, though, the fourth and final nominee and the winner is the Ashley Aneesa drama at the end of the episode. As for the MVP, I haven't let my bias show too much yet this season. I know we're only on episode 3, but Aneesa gets some votes. Adam and Steve obviously get votes, incredible performance all the way through from them. Sylvia and KellyAnne, absolutely, of course. Ashley, of course, but I do think I've got to give the MVP of the episode. As much as Sylvia, KellyAnne, Ashley, Adam really, really shine, really present all the way through the episode, start to finish, and all the different facets, all the different phases of the show, I got to give it to Frank. Frank was just really, really on one this episode. Every confessional was worthwhile and was really great. And he was really present. And I don't know. I left the episode. That's the decision I make. And it's a committee of one. Frank, MVP, episode 3. To the power rankings we go. And the streak ends. We did our last place team in our power rankings was not eliminated, though. I start to think that team was Veronica and Katie. And as we get from Veronica here, strategy prevails. She says it right out loud. Hey, we might not be the best team. And we would like people to believe that and to know that and to make sure that they think that at all times and keep us around. Maybe we'll steal a star at the end and surprise some people. We will see. So I don't expect my bottom place teams to go home, although there is a new bottom place team as of this week because I do like that strategy from Veronica and Katie. Let's start at the top where things haven't changed. The top 6 stay the top 6. Amber Fessy, Devin Leroy, Nani Turbo, Steven Adam, Corey Big T, Devon and Shane. Those 6 are at the top. Amber Fessy, Devin and Leroy, and maybe there's a break after them. Maybe Nani Turbo, Steven Adam are in that group too. It's hard to, how big a tiers are we going to make here? But it's kind of tier 1 is Amber and Fessy, Devin and Leroy. Tier 1A, 1B is Nani Turbo, Steve Adam, and then Corey Big T, Devon and Shane. And Ashley, Dario in 7th are the other teams that I could see really competing for a win here, depending on who gets to the end. And then in 8th, I got Frank and Sam, Ashley and Aneesa in 9th, Veronica and Katie in 10th, Melissa and Nicole in 11th. They drop to the bottom. We've only gotten brief glimpses of it, but they don't communicate well together, partially because they can't understand each other when they're competing. And they kind of have good alliances in the house. They kind of don't. I don't know. I like Veronica and Katie's odds of making it to the final as a team. Everyone wants to make it to the final with them. And I just have too much respect for Ashley. So I bumped Melissa and Nicole to the bottom. I don't know. I just did. But I feel really strong about the top. I think Amber, Fessy, Devin, and Leroy, they got to be getting thrown in against each other sooner rather than later for everyone else to have a shot. As for predictions, we are crushing it right now, y'all. Okay. Week 1 went 2 for 3. Week 2, 3 for 3. I said Devin and Leroy would win. I said Devin would try to make a deal with Steve and Adam as the only other male teams, which I'm counting as a win because they have a conversation and they do at least take them in, and they don't have a deal, but they have a working knowledge of we both kind of want to use each other as a shield. So I'm counting it. You may call bullshit. I don't care. Ashley and Aneesa try, but can't outdo Sylvia and KellyAnne's fight. We're splitting hairs here. Both are reality TV gold. I, again, mostly to say that I was right, prefer Sylvia and KellyAnne's, but mostly, again, just to say I was right. So we're 5 for 6 so far. That's what we're saying on predictions. So basically what I'm about to say is they're not real spoilers because I have no idea what happens next week, but they may as well be because I'm on a streak and I'm just going to keep nailing this stuff. Amber and Fessel win the daily challenges. Prediction number 1. Adam and Steve are voted in again. Super dumb for the show, but also smart by everyone else. And also maybe could be interesting again if they win every elimination the entire season long, is number 2. And then number 3, I think Amber and Fessel see the elim and think, we've got time. We can win another daily. We don't need to go in yet. And they will throw in Frank and Sam, who I think Amber is going to pick up on, like Frank's, stirring some shit behind the scenes here. Adam and Steve have already asked one team to give them Frank and Sam, who did not. So in my theory of Amber Fessel win, don't want to throw themselves in quite yet. Adam and Steve get voted in. They ask for Frank and Sam. Amber and Fessel have no super allegiances there. Throw them in again. And we'll go 4. Frank and Sam lose that elimination to Adam and Steve, who start the season 3-4-3. Those are your predictions, power rankings, awards, storylines, all the good stuff. That is episode 3, All Stars 5, Rivals in the books. As always, subscribe, follow, rate, review, all that good stuff. If you want to chat challenge, comment on YouTube, comment on Spotify. I will check those one day, I swear. Or best of all, Instagram at Challenge Historian. You can shoot me a DM and we can chat over there. Again, be on the lookout. Sometime Friday or Sunday or Saturday, one of those 3 days over the next 48 hours. Hopefully we have the season 41 cast confirmed who has actually began filming. When we have that list, we will do our instant cast reactions. That will be out. Otherwise, we'll talk to you next week for All Stars 5 episode 4. Till then, peace.